Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Twanna Yvette Speaks. This is your host, Twanna, and I am coming to you tonight with two very special guests. I have with me Donna Thomas and Mark Bello will be coming in a little bit later. You guys know the topics that you have chosen to talk about on the show and the podcast. It has been going on for weeks. These guests are going to be able to give us a little insight on the workings of these types of people. Donna is a storyteller. She is a crime storyteller, and of course Mark, um he is an attorney, so he deals with criminal intent, so to speak, on a daily basis. So I can't wait for you guys to meet our audience and get started. I'm sharing you guys out right now, and let me get over here to this branding and take this banner down. All right, here we are. Hi, Donna. How are you
Hi.
doing?
Hi.
I'm
Hi.
excited. I'm so excited.
Um, Thank you. I'm very happy to be with you
So,
tonight.
listen, we've already got people coming in. We're on YouTube and we're on Periscope. So, hi, YouTube. Hi, Periscope. How you
Hi,
guys
everyone.
doing? Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about what you do.
Okay. My name is Donna Thomas, and my doggy's barking. I was a public defender in Los Angeles for 10 years, and that just kind of morphed into writing about true crime because I really didn't like the system. It was just so corrupt, and there was just so much hypocrisy that but the thing that I really loved about it was the criminals. There was no
Mm,
lying about them. They were what they were, and there was no trying to figure out anything. So I really enjoyed my interactions that I had with them. A lot of them were fascinating to me. And so it
okay.
just kind of naturally morphed into writing about true crime. And it was a natural progression to me because I understand the legal system, and I usually
Right.
follow a case from start to finish. So I go to court, I go to their trials. I understand the legal system. I don't have to ask anybody anything. I understand it myself. And when I go to prison, I understand all of those things. I did do a
Right.
little appellate work after I left the PD office, but not a lot. But so that's what I primarily do now. I write articles, books,
Okay.
screenplays about true crime cases.
So
And
you actually can look at something like in today's society and kind of figure it out. This is the intent. This is what they may have been thinking. This is why they did all this stuff.
well, not always. I mean, the thing is, I won't do a
You have a
case.
pretty good grasp on it, though,
Oh yeah,
like
but
from
you never know.
experience.
The thing with my writing, I think that makes it a little bit different than other ones is I won't write about a case unless I have access to everyone. If I
Okay.
can't interview the defendant, for instance, well, like Scott Peterson, I mean, I spend time with him at San Quentin and all that. If I
Right.
can't talk to the person, then I don't do it because it's boring to me. It's boring to a reader. Anybody can just look on the internet. If I
Exactly.
don't have access to them, to the victims, to the attorneys, to the police, all of those people, I don't write about. So
Exactly.
that I think puts me a little bit different than a lot of. You'll see a lot of the books that are written are not written from that vantage point, and it makes a huge difference. I try to get in their head because I think a lot of people want to know, why did this person do this? That's
Right.
key. Why did they do it? That's
That's
what I
what
try to
I'm
find out.
always thinking, man. I'm always thinking, why were you such an idiot? Like
Exactly.
it just doesn't make sense to me. Tell us some of the people that you've worked with in your career.
Who I've interviewed as an
Yeah.
author. I mean,
Mhm.
I interviewed the first high profile criminal that I ever interviewed was Ted Bundy. Okay, now I was
You
just
did
graduated
not.
from law school when that happened, and
You
some lawyers,
actually
yes,
talked to
yeah,
Ted Bundy?
some lawyers that were,
Shut.
yeah, I did. He was the first one, the first very high profile. So
Oh.
some lawyers that were friends of my family said we're going down to Florida to work, do some final appellate work. Do you want to come along? And I said, sure, who wouldn't want to come along? And so we went down there. He was at Stark, Florida, which is death row in Florida. And we interviewed him in December of 1988, and he was executed in January of 1985. So we saw him about a month before he was executed. I'll tell you something. He was one of the most brilliant. There was a room full of attorneys there, 30 attorneys sitting in the room. He was the smartest one, knew the law much better.
Oh my
He
God.
was a very smart person, very smart, very high IQ. And
Yeah, I would imagine so.
what he did, unless you knew. I've also interviewed Charles Manson many times.
No, you did not.
Don Gotti, Henry Hill, all of those people. Lots of, Ted Boham. I know you probably don't know him. He was a porno star and got into trouble. I wrote a book about him.
I remember that.
Timothy McVeigh, the one that did the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh my God.
And then I've done a lot of women too. I interviewed Pam Smart. She was the teacher that had her husband killed. And
yes,
Roderick, and also some of the Manson girls. Patricia Krimwinkle and Leslie Van Houten were the Manson girls. They're still in prison, and I've interviewed them. And Karen Severson, which she's out now. She killed her friend. I don't know if you remember. There was a movie made Killer Among Friends.
It was like Lifetime or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And Patty.
Oh my God.
So I interviewed her, and both of those girls are out of prison, by the way. They served like 28 years in prison, and they're out now.
We're gonna say that. We're gonna say Ted Bundy is the smartest. Who was the scariest?
Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. I actually handled him when I was a public defender because a lot of his crimes were in LA. He was, we would flip a coin when we come in the morning to see who would get him because no one wanted to. I mean, he was crazy. He was a devil. Openly worshipped the devil, him openly. And he was brilliant too. But out of all of the ones that I've dealt with, he was the one that made me very nervous because you just didn't know what he was going to do. He would go, you looked at him wrong, he would go off. He killed 70, 80, 90 people, maybe, at least that many.
Oh my God.
Not killed them, but raped them, tortured them, not just kill. Very different than serial. A lot of serial killers just kill. Some of them rape, like Ted Bundy, but some of them just go out and kill people and don't torture them. It's all around the board, and then I interviewed John Gotti and Henry Hill, and their crimes were always because it was a mafia, so it was purely on money, and they were very interested in me because at least with them, I understood it was about money.
It was all about money.
You did something wrong. It was about the other ones, though. You figure, why was she just over and over and over again killing these women? Ted?
Right. That's one of the things that I personally, I don't understand serial killers because I don't understand the intent. You're not killing for money. Is it a power trip? Like, what do they say?
They all look the same with him. They all had dark hair, parted in the middle, long hair. Ted Bundy. They all look very similar.
All look very similar.
The girl that first broke his heart looked just like them. She had brown hair, parted in the middle. And I think that was part of his sickness. But, people wonder, okay, he was smart. But I also interviewed Richard Allen Davis, who killed Polly Klaas.
No.
Yeah. And he was so, a lot of them were sad. Eileen Warmos, I interviewed her too. One of the only woman serial killers, Eileen Warmos. They made a movie out of her.
I could not sit in a room.
Warmos, she was such a sad person.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
Tortured and raped when she was a child. And
I could not. My nerves are not good enough. Like, you just became a superhero to me because I don't have nerves of steel. Like, I would just freak. Like, there's no way I could be a criminal attorney. There's no way I could. I mean, oh my God, I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
how do you do it? Like, do you have to do you drink a glass of champagne before you go in there?
I represented Antoine Miller. He was one of the persons that took Reginald Denny out of the truck during the Rodney King riots.
Right.
Okay, now whatever you thought about the Rodney King, and I thought it was terrible, but two wrongs don't make a right. That's my book. That's
true.
You know,
Totally true.
and that was on videotape. There was no defense of that. He was flashing gang signs to the helicopter. I mean, you
Right.
can't defend that when it's on tape and everybody sees it.
Yeah.
You
And you
can't
don't
say
know
it
these
wasn't him,
people.
he didn't do it. It's all there. So you walk into the room, and he was very young. He was 19 years old when he did that.
Hmm.
And I walk in there, and I go, okay, so how are we going to defend this? You did it. It's on tape. What position do you want to take here? My job is to keep him out of jail. It's on tape. He did it, right? I mean, he said, well, I don't know. I did it. I got caught up in the moment. I said, that's not going to work.
You got caught up in the moment.
That's not going to work. That isn't going to work. So we got to think of something else if we're going to go, unless we're pleading guilty to
Because
something.
you can't go in a courtroom and say, well, my client got caught up in the moment.
Yeah, I think that's not going to work. The judge is going to laugh at you. It's not going to work. So that kind of stuff is very frustrating. And another thing, it was a moral dilemma a lot of times. I didn't want someone like him unless he got help walking around to victimize somebody else. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's a moral dilemma. That's part of the reason I couldn't deal with it anymore.
So, Donna, let me ask you. I got to ask you who the scariest person was, which I totally believe you. Who do you think was the most calculating, like most manipulative?
Peterson was quite a manipulator. He's quite a manipulator.
You think so?
Why
do you figure?
He went and he killed his pregnant 27-year wife. Everything was planned out, what he did. And this is a scary thing about sociopaths. He was a sociopath. They could live their whole life and never do anything wrong, never rise to a criminal level. We all know a sociopath. There's someone that will lie and cheat to get a better job. They do this, they do that, but it doesn't rise to a criminal level. But when they snap huge.
It's like a totally different personality.
Walking around among us. You know that. I mean, they're all over the place.
That right there makes me stay in the house, period. I don't even need to go outside. I'm not answering my door tonight. Like, this right here is worse than a horror movie. Like, now I'm freaked out. I'm like, I'm not going outside for 3 days.
Anybody is capable of anything.
Anybody. That's the thing. That's why, when I read your website and everything, and I was looking over, I was thinking that. I was like, this lady is literally saying your next door neighbor could be that, the mailman, the cashier at Walmart, like anybody. Because when you snap,
Peterson didn't even have a parking ticket before he did that. He didn't even use profanity. He would lecture people when they used the 4-letter word. He didn't drink soda because he had the cap. He wasn't religious.
They're all like OCD. They all have these certain things, like they're vegan, or it's just like you meet them in the frozen food section.
He would lie about stupid stuff. Like he knew I was a Democrat, so he said that he was a Democrat. And then I found out
to get on your side
through the voter rolls that he was a Republican. That's just really stupid thing to lie about, right? I mean, that's kind of a dumb thing to lie to somebody. But that's the kind of stuff that he would do. He would lie and tell people what they wanted to hear. And he's very chameleon that way. And a lot of them are like that. And, another calculator was Charles Manson. Charles Manson was very because he's brilliant. No matter what you would have thought about him, that he was jumping crazy.
I know. I have looked at some of the what do you call those things? I guess it's like a documentary or something. I saw the Charles Manson documentary on the True Crime TV network, and they always portrayed him as somebody who was super intelligent. And you have to get away with crime for that long.
A lot of the family members were Berkeley grads and Stanford grads. They were brilliant people.
Exactly.
In order to brainwash someone like that, you've got to be smarter than them. He read books. He read books on the art of brainwashing, and talk about
and mastered it. He would master it.
He knew who was vulnerable, who he could victimize. He was very good. And he never killed anybody. That's another thing. He just told them to do it. He went in order. He never actually killed it. That was his big thing when I would interview him. Because, what? I don't think it's fair that I'm in here because I never killed anyone. And I said that you told. I said that you. But you
See, I couldn't do
masterminded
your
the whole
job.
thing.
Listen, I couldn't do your job because I'm soft-hearted. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up in the ministry, so if somebody tells me, well, I didn't do it, then I start feeling sorry for you. Well, he's an innocent. Like
Right.
he'd probably get out and go kill 10 more people tonight just because of
Yeah, he
me.
would. He said, I've
That
accepted the
job
fact.
is not for
He goes,
everybody.
I've accepted the fact that I'm here, but I don't think it's right. He said, because some of the people that actually did the murders are out, which some of them did get out. But I go, you masterminded the whole thing. If it wouldn't be for you, those people that you had killed, like Sharon Tate and the LaBiancas, they'd be alive if not for you, Charlie. You did it. I know you're not going to tell me you admitted it, but I
Right.
talked to Leslie and I talked to Patricia. That would really piss him off. I said, I just saw the girls, Leslie Van Houten and Patricia Quenrinkle, down there at Chowchilla, where they are the women's prison in
Yeah.
Fontana. And he said,
Yeah.
they lie. You can't believe a word they say. They're both liars. That's what he would say. It was kind of funny, actually. And then they
You have
said,
got some comments. I know you can't see the chat, but you've got some comments. It's me says, I concur that man had followers. I guess when you're that manipulative, you will get people to follow you. They start believing in what you have to
yeah,
say. It's like, almost like a worship, type thing. Like everybody else is wrong and Charles Manson is
right.
right. Like,
They looked upon him as a savior. They thought he was like Jesus Christ. Crazy the way and they were smart girls and smart men, a lot of them, very college educated, really, really smart, but they had this
right.
wiring in them that they could fall prey for someone like that. Anyone can be manipulated. I mean, a lot of people can be manipulated. You would think no, but yeah,
You would think.
you would
You would
think
think.
no. It just depends how good the person is, and he was a master at manipulation.
I
A
think that's
real
why I have
master.
that's why I'm an ex-wife because I stopped being manipulated. So anyway, listen, I got a question to ask you. What
Yeah,
what crimes are you interested in now? Like in current events, what have you been watching and kind of going
yeah.
through your mind about?
I've been listening and paying attention very closely to the cult mom case, Lori Vallow and her husband, her fifth husband, um,
Yeah.
Chad Daybell. They're in Idaho. There was a
You were
mass
telling me
search
you were
for
telling me about that before the show.
her two children, JJ and Tylee. He was 7, she was 17. She had them
Okay, so
murdered. They found them dead. They were buried in his backyard. And the thing that's crazy about that case is they haven't been charged with murder yet, even though the bodies were found in his backyard. I don't, as a former attorney, I don't understand. I had cases where the person was charged with murder and there was no body. They have the 2 bodies. I can't
you
believe
know
he
what
was
that
dumb enough
sounds
to bury
like?
the bodies in
This
his backyard.
this reminds me of the Jean Bonnet. Was anybody ever arrested
In
in that
Boulder.
case?
Well, that no. And I never thought that the parents did that. I mean, a lot of people accuse them. His
I
older
couldn't
children,
tell.
John Ramsey's older children that he had from his said he was a wonderful father. There was not because she was in a beauty pageant. That's why I never thought there was no evidence that showed me that they were guilty, neither one. And what they went through, they were being accused, and they didn't. I never thought they did it. Either one of them did it. There
Really?
was no evidence that linked them to the murder. None. I thought
I
it was
don't
weird
know.
that she was found in their
I just
home.
think that's one of the weirdest cases. I'm like, I don't understand who would want to kill this little girl just because she was a pageant baby. Like that just didn't make sense to me.
Well, there was a lot of pedophile. There was pedophile
Well, this
incidents
is true.
in that
This is
area
true.
where she lived in Boulder. They had some arrests and some
Yeah.
pedophile. I tell everybody you can go on these sites and these local sites where you live and see if there's sex offenders living near you. And people with
Yes, I've
children,
done that.
yeah, people with young children need to do that
Mhm.
immediately. Even if you're looking to move somewhere, try to do it before you're going to move because it's so important. They're registered sex offenders, so they have to
How
register.
for those people who are listening, like if you've never done that before, how do you find out what sex offenders live in your neighborhood?
There's a site that you can go on.
Okay.
It's called. Geez, I'm gonna have a mental block now. Just all you got to do is Google
Just Google it.
find registered sex offenders in my neighborhood, and it will take you to the site. You put your address in, and then it shows you where they live, their names, what they're convicted of, everything. It's got everything. Because I believe that pedophilia, you can't cure that. It cannot be cured.
I don't think so. I don't
I
think
don't
so
think
either.
you can cure that. The recidivism rate is like 98%. So if they're out and about, they're doing it. And I know they've watched a lot of them, and they might kill somebody. If they're going to sexually molest a child, they might kill the child so the child can't talk. They're violent people. We don't have enough room in the prisons to keep them behind bars forever, which they should be. You got somebody selling pot that's in there for 30 years, and they let it.
I never understood that.
The whole system is messed up, in my opinion.
Donna, you have a question. It's me says, I'm sorry, I may have lost track of that part. Did they find the 2 kids dead?
Yeah, JJ was 7 years old and Kylie, 17. They were found dead and buried in Chad Daybell's backyard in Idaho, Rexford, Idaho.
So the youngest was 7. The youngest was 7. The oldest was 17. Okay.
Both of them were found. It's so sad.
And they were found in the backyard.
And they're both in jail. They're both in jail in Idaho awaiting trial.
Okay.
But the thing is with that case, and I don't understand it, I have some sources in Idaho. Why haven't these people been charged with murder? The parent is always charged when you can't explain where the children, you know what I mean? And she was lying to her mother. She was saying they were with her friend, and she was lying. The lying shows that she wasn't looking for them, that she was lying. She knew they were dead. The lying proves her involvement, in my opinion. With children, it's the parent. If it's not the parent, like in the case of Polly Klaas, for instance, okay, they were accusing right away Mark Klaas, the father. He said, he took a polygraph immediately because he knew it wasn't him, and he wanted them to find her. So that's what he tried to do immediately.
If you're innocent, why would you lie anyway?
Exactly. There's no reason to lie if you didn't do it. And that's with any crime. Not just for children. If you sit there and you lie, that's a problem. You don't have to lie if you really didn't do it. That's
exactly
when they lie. And now with digital imprints, there's no lying anymore. It's just way out there. Even if you're really sneaky and you think you're going to use a burner phone, they can trace a burner phone. They can trace everything.
Let me ask you a question. There's a case that's out right now. I was telling you about it earlier about the Tim Norman case. Somebody said that why don't they just give these people a lie detector test? Would that help? Is that admissible in court?
They can't force you to take one. There's 2 things. They can't force you legally to. How would they do that? I mean, you'd move around and jump around. There's no way that if somebody's doing it by force.
So that's how come they don't count. They don't count that in court because
now another thing, it's not used in court. It can't be used against a person, but it rules people out. That's why the police do it. It rules somebody out.
Okay.
But I've seen people like Karen Severson, the one I talked about that killed the girl in her high school. She took several polygraphs and passed them, and she was guilty of sin. She said she got high and drunk right before she would do it. And that
it was almost like talking to her alter ego or her other personality.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So you can have multiple personalities, and the lie detector test thinks
98% of the time they're very reliable.
Oh my God. That is scary.
Like with OJ, immediately. And I was practicing when that trial was going on.
I used to be an OJ fan, but
he was a good friend of mine. He was a nice man. I loved him. He really was. He got a lot of blowback for that. But
I'm sorry. OJ scares me.
His job to defend him. So that's it.
OJ scares me. Like he
took a polygraph like 3 times. And he failed all 3 times. He did it. He killed his wife. He did that. No doubt in my mind. He killed her and he killed Ron Goldman. He did both of them. He did. There's no doubt in my mind that he killed both of them.
Yeah. You have another question.
Now, all these years later, we would know if it wasn't him. We would know who did it if it wasn't him. We would know that. That got more attention in the world. We would know the person would have been revealed already. Right? I mean, no.
That's my thought. I've never been in law school or whatever, but
Mark Furman said the N-word doesn't have anything to do with his guilt.
It didn't have any. Yeah, that was just a deflection.
Yeah, that had nothing, and it worked. Leslie Bailey is brilliant, you know. He's one of
You've
the
got
smartest lawyers.
you've got another question. Why is she still going back and forth to
Were we
court?
talking about Lori
Why is she not charged? Yeah,
I was talking about Lori Bello in Idaho.
I think
Okay,
so.
the
Yeah. Why
charges
is she not
are
charged?
there's a few charges of tampering with evidence, lying to the police during an investigation. They're felonies, but they neither one of them have criminal records. So even if they were convicted of that, they'd be out in 3 years. That's why I'm saying. And I also believe that Chad Daybell killed his wife Tammy too.
Ugh.
He killed his wife. He was married to her for 29 years. He was seeing Lori before she died. And then, right after she died, in her sleep at 49, she had no health problems. He married the other woman a week later, the Lori Vallow. He married her. So I think he killed her. And she was behind the murder of her husband, Charles Vallow, also. Her brother killed her husband, and then mysteriously, he winds up dead. Alex Cox was his name. So they're both facing felony charges, but they're minor felonies. They're not serious charges.
Okay.
I do
Okay.
not understand. I mean, I was shocked when the bodies turned up in his backyard. I'm thinking, you got to be the dumbest person on the face of the earth. You're going to kill these two kids when everyone's watching you and bury the bodies in your backyard. That was a gift from heaven to find the bodies there. I never thought we would find, and they're still not charged with murder.
It's
That's the
like
first.
listening to a television show. Like this is like unreal.
That's
That's
all
crazy.
I don't get it. I don't understand why they haven't been charged. Both of them.
That's
They're
crazy.
involved. They both were involved. I don't know if she physically killed them. It could have. They're going to blame the brother who's dead, who they killed. I think it was her brother, Alex Cox, the children's.
What was the purpose? What was the purpose
They're in
for
a
murdering?
cult. They were in this crazy cult. That's what they call cult mom. They're it's an offshoot of the Mormon church. It's like a
But what was she like? What was she trying to do? Give an offering
They
or
were
something?
saying that the
Like,
end of the world was coming on July 17th, 2020. Well, obviously that didn't happen. But I don't really think that Chad Daybell believed that. I think he just said that to get women and to be popular. I don't really think he actually believed that, but that's what he would say. And he wrote books about that. They were in a cult. I think they killed him because they got in the way. They knew all the dirty work that they were doing. They might have witnessed the girl was almost 18. So she obviously could have talked if she knew about any wrongdoing. So I think that was a witness. And the 7-year-old was autistic and had some, it's so sad. Just go give them up. Just turn them into the city. Do anything. There were relatives that would have taken them. The grandmother that filed the missing persons report would have taken them both gladly, she said. I mean, why do you go and do that?
right.
I don't understand.
That's
People are
crazy.
that's the worst kind of cases where parents kill their children. That's the worst. You can't defend
Okay.
that.
What are your thoughts about the Breonna Taylor case right now?
Well, there's a lot of it, but a no-knock warrant is a stupid, dangerous thing to do. First of all, it's dangerous for the cops. It's dangerous. You don't know what's on the other side of the door. You could have
Because
someone.
one of my viewers told me yesterday that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend shot, and I think the bullet hit one of the police officers' legs because he didn't understand it was the police. He was like, he heard, a noise or whatever. He's like,
He
who
heard
is it?
shooting. Yeah.
And he was like, oh my God, and
No, I
Breonna Taylor
think
still
he
ended
shot
up.
first, and then they returned fire. I mean, they
Yeah.
gave
Okay.
the family $12 million, right? I don't know. That's a lot of money. I don't know.
$12 million. I mean,
Well, the
I
highest
don't know.
fatality lawsuit in the history of.
What do you guys think in the audience? Do you think $12 million will settle? I still feel like these police officers should at least apologize or,
The problem with prosecuting cops, okay, you have a jury sitting there and they're going to listen to the evidence, right? They're not screaming and yelling and outside. They're sitting in the courtroom. It's very hard to convict them. The history shows us it's very hard. They didn't know that she was there and they were killing. They didn't know any of that beforehand. You'd have to prove intent that they,
You'd have to prove that. Yeah.
some malicious intent. You can't prove that in that case. You
Right.
can't. There's no proving of that. I mean, I could defend them. I was a defense attorney. I would be able to defend them easily because you can't prove that they knew ahead of time that they could. That's not first degree murder. It's not. I'm sad. It's very, very. I think it's the fallacy of the no knock warrant. That should not be allowed. That's
I don't think so.
dangerous.
I don't think so either.
I mean, it's dangerous. Why would you do? All you have to do is go outside and do surveillance on somebody, like watch them and see where they go. If you have a warrant, let's say, and follow them, and then arrest them when it's safe to arrest them. Not do that. You know what I mean? That's just you're asking for trouble. And there's been other incidences that have not gotten published, but there's been a lot of problems with no knock warrants and not legal in a lot of states for that reason. They're just very dangerous. You know, it's very, very sad, but I do believe it was an accident. I don't think they came here to kill her. I
don't think it was intentional because if it's like about drugs and all that kind of stuff, anything could happen. You know what I'm saying? Some of the officers could have been. I don't think it was intentional, but if it had been me, I would have at least made an effort to apologize to the family to try to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like somebody should it's my job, and I was just following the law.
They have lawyers telling them to be quiet, though.
Yeah. And on the other hand, I have lost a child before, so I can understand Breonna Taylor's mother. You know what I'm saying? Like, thanks for the 12 mil, but it's not going to bring Breonna back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they might not be charged. They got to really, the district attorney got to look. I mean, the other one in, what was the other one? Atlanta, in the parking lot. I can't remember the fellow's name, but he resisted. John, let me tell this. I want to really get this out while people are listening.
Okay. All right.
From John Cochran, who was a civil rights attorney. I mean, he spent his whole life trying to defend people's civil rights. This is what he would tell anybody who would listen. He told it to me. He said, if you're pulled, and he was pulled over zillions. He was a prosecutor before he was a defense lawyer. He was pulled over every week, he said, when he was a prosecutor. He said, this is it. You have got to survive when you're pulled over. That has to be your goal, to survive. If there's something wrong, then you take it to court. But if you're dead, what good is it? You must comply. He would say that to everybody. He did it himself. He complied. Whatever they asked, he said they have all the power in that situation. They got the gun. They got the badge. The civilian has no power. It's true. In that moment, you don't have any power. It might be illegal what they're doing, but you still have no power. So you got to do what they tell you to do. Anybody that's been pulled over knows this, right? We comply when you're pulled. So I think that's another one, that case there, that he's pulling the taser and shoot. That was all bad on him, and he lost his life. But you cannot fight with a cop like that. What do you think is going to happen? That nothing's going to happen if you do that? I mean, we're dealing with people here.
I live in the South. I'm not trying a cop out here. I am a Black woman in the dirty South. Yes, sir. Right. My hands are up, sir. My insurance license is up there, sir. Like, I'm not trying to get shot. I got grandkids to see after. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't.
What people think that is going to happen when they do that kind of. I mean, I've always told people, please don't do that. And I had a lot of people that were resisting arrest. I had a lot of people I represented for that. Why did you do that? If they're telling you to do something, why didn't you just do it?
Just do it. Like, what is it going to hurt if they say, let me see your license? Oh, there you go.
Whether they have a right to do it or not, if you don't do it, it's going to piss them off. And
the only reason I say that, look, Donna, because we're women, the only reason I say that is because if you know anything about a man, they like to be in control, regardless of, what kind of power they have. If you tell some guy, well, I'm not going to give you my license for what? I'm not even driving. Okay, listen, that's automatic fight right there. That's an automatic argument.
Exactly.
Then give them, the ability to wear the police outfit and the gun and some handcuffs. Like, no, I'm not. That's one dude I'm not messing with. Not today.
Exactly. So anybody listening, please, whatever they tell you, just do it.
Just do it.
Whether it's legal or not, you can go to court, like Johnny would say, and you can sue them in court. But if you're dead, you can't. Nobody can
If
sue
you're,
anybody,
yeah, if you're
right?
dead, you can't. And there
And
have
he
been
said
so
how the
many
world had
deaths.
to survive, and he hated the police, and he knew what they were capable, and he still said you have to comply. It's just common sense. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. I think a lot of these cases wouldn't be playing out the way that if the people did comply. It's very, very sad. We all know what happens when you fight. I actually had Rodney King a few times too that I represented.
You told me that. I was like,
Yeah,
oh
I
my
mean,
God.
you
And
know,
that
he was a nice man,
flashbacks.
but he was a very troubled person.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of drug and alcohol problems. But
Yeah.
he was a
Now
good guy. I mean, you know,
my
that was
biological family, I have a lot of people on the other side of the track. My biological father was well, he's deceased now, so he was a drug lord here in the South.
wow.
And my mother for years did not know. She had no idea who she married. So I totally can see how this stuff happens. You
Mhm,
know, going back to, you talked about manipulation and how cunning they were,
mhm.
and you have no idea. Like, our neighbors thought this guy was like just an angel, and I'm like, you
Good.
don't know him. Who are you talking about? My dad?
They
Like, who
had
are you
double, they lead double lives. Look at the BTK killer in Kansas.
totally
He was
split
he was
personality?
like a preacher in church, and he worked for the Forestry Service, and he was killing all these people. And his
Girl,
wife,
have you
and his
seen?
wife was married to him for 35 years and had no idea. And you
Had
know,
no
very
idea.
interesting when she found out because he pled guilty in Kansas. Normally, it's like 3 months, 6 months that you have to wait when you get a
And
divorce. The judge in her case made a special ruling that she could be divorced immediately. That was very
I
nice
that
of him.
I
Right?
like that.
So she didn't
Listen,
have to wait, which was so sad for her. I felt so bad. That's just such a betrayal. You know, you married someone, they're doing all this stuff. You have no idea they're doing. I mean, look at what people have to deal
I
with
know.
people that go off the rails. It's so terrible for them. There's lots
Donna,
of different, you know, things, ways to look at it. It's
Donna,
very, very
you have a room full of comments. Like, oh my God.
sad.
Okay, we're gonna stop ignoring the audience. Let me see what you think about this. It's me says, my problem is if they paid the money, if they paid the money, then that means that there's something that happened that they were guilty that the police are responsible for. So why are the police officers not charged? Do you think that is
And
a
the Breonna
possibility, Donna?
Taylor and the
Yeah,
Breonna Taylor.
that they gave the mother the money because they felt guilty. Is that a
Okay, let me
possibility?
give you an example of something. Let's say you go walk into a supermarket and the floor isn't completely dry. They just mop the floor and you fall and you hurt yourself and you sue them. You get a settlement.
You get
Nobody
a settlement.
knew that John Smith was coming in to get groceries and he was going to fall on that spot. Nobody knew ahead of it's very
Right.
similar kind of thing. They still
That's
get
very
paid
similar.
because the store is responsible for the welfare of the people that walk into, you know, the customers, their safety. It's the same thing. They were police carrying out a no knock warrant. It went
Yeah.
south. Somebody
Yeah.
an
No,
innocent
I
person
totally agree.
playing in her bag
I
with
think the
fell.
law,
But in order to bring murder charges against
yeah,
someone,
I think
I
that
don't even know
particular
if they
law
know
should be
who actually.
changed.
Do they
I
even know who fired the bullet? Which cop it was
Yeah.
that fired?
And to be honest with you, I personally feel like that particular law puts the police officer in more danger. They should have to knock on the door. They should have to yell and announce themselves so that they don't get shot. That they, you know what I'm saying? That's dangerous for everybody.
They should do surveillance like they do in many
That's, yeah.
states, but they stake somebody out and they follow them, and when it's safe, they arrest them out in the open. That's the best way to do it. If you have
All
a
right.
warrant to arrest someone, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
way you're not putting anybody else at danger. You do it out in
Okay.
the open. A lot of the times they do it like that. That's the
Yeah.
best way to do it, where no one's hurt. I've seen people get arrested in parks a lot. that are watched under surveillance, where they're not around anybody, where no one's around. That's the way to do it.
Right.
Not like that. You don't know who's in the house. There
You
could have
don't
been
know who's
children
in the
in the
house.
house. You don't know who's there. You're just asking for trouble. I mean, I know they're disagreeing. I see the comments, but in order to get a conviction, you got, the jury's going to be told you got to go, but if there's reasonable doubt, you can't vote guilty, right? So
Yeah.
you have to prove that. So an accident is not premeditated murder. That I'm
I
going
mean,
to
like,
the
yeah,
house
and it could have been, somebody
you
who lived in a mansion or somebody who lived, in a regular neighborhood like myself. Like, it would have been the same thing. You don't have to knock or you don't have to announce yourself. And I think that's crazy because, like I said, in my opinion, everybody's in danger at this point. Like, you can literally come and break. That's like living in Russia or something. You can just break into my house whenever you feel like it. It's
yeah,
just like,
no.
you
I
don't
think
live
that,
here. What are you
I
doing?
think this case is going to probably do away with all of that, in my opinion.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I
I
hope
think I
so.
think it will, because there's plenty of other ways to arrest somebody. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they do it every day by people are under surveillance and they watch them, and when they're safe,
Yeah.
they arrest them. They do it every day like that. That's
I
the way
got a,
to
I
do it.
got a question. Listen, there's a case that you don't know about, but I'm just, because you're the expert, I'm going to ask this. I'm looking for Tim Norman of Sweetie Pies. In the public record, he was in Mississippi, incarcerated. Uh, but all of a sudden, you can't find his name anywhere.
Yeah,
Now, here's the
they can take it, like, for instance, another one, Drew Peterson, because I'm writing a book about him. He's the one that
right.
was a cop. Okay, and he's had a lot of cops have a lot of trouble when they're in prison, because
I know somebody said he was getting death threats, and
right. So
somebody
they're
said he was
legally
really getting picked
allowed.
with.
They're
They were,
legally
yeah,
allowed to take their name off the roll. So if you look to
okay.
find them, then you can't find them. They don't do it a lot, but they do it for some people. No, it's
In
not.
your opinion, and this is the guy that I told you he allegedly had his nephew murdered for insurance money. What
Right.
would it take, in your opinion, to convict this guy? And
Well,
and let me
you
just
have to
add this. Let me
look at.
add this. He's not the shooter because he wasn't even in town. So he hired somebody, and he
Yeah.
had
So,
he had an in-between woman. Like, he had 2 or 3 years to think this out.
all right.
What would it take?
First of
You
all,
know,
we're going to look at who took out the insurance policy
he did.
and on the kid and
And
how.
he was the sole beneficiary.
So that's it. That's the guilty party right there. There's the intent. That's the intent right there.
That's it.
That's
That's it.
it. Yeah, with the phone
Oh my
records,
God.
it's so hard to.
They
I used
did.
to
They
tell
had phone
people with
records.
cell phones. I
And I'm
used
glad
to
you
tell
said that, because
people,
they thought that they were smart. Him and the girl that set the nephew up, they had these burner phones, they call them. And after they got done, talking, they threw the phones away, and the police still got the records. Excuse me, the FBI still
but
got the
that was
record,
the
the
same
phone
case
record.
like in Florida recently with that Sievers, that guy in Florida, and his wife, Teresa Sievers, was a doctor, and he had his childhood friend from Missouri murder her. And that was all over money, and he didn't want to divorce her because he wouldn't get money. And he
Didn't
wasn't
they
there
make a
when he
movie
did.
about
He
that?
was in New York visiting her relatives. He was in New York visiting her relatives when the other
Yeah.
guy was in Florida murdering his wife. But all of the forensic evidence was there. And then he flipped on him and testified against him. Here's the thing. If you're going to kill somebody, don't have other people do it yourself. That's the first thing. Because that other person can talk, and then you're going to get caught. More than likely, you're going to get caught if you involve other people.
If
You
you
have a
involve
better
other, and
chance
you
of
have,
not getting caught if you do it yourself. I
I
should be telling this to
my
people, but
personal opinion with this dude, Donna, is that he spent 10 years in prison for armed robbery. If you didn't get away with the first crime, what made you think you were so smart as to try it again? Like, you,
well,
and then
yeah, they're very arrogant. They're very arrogant. They think they're smarter than everybody else.
I
It's
think
great.
he has a split
I
personality.
used to tell people back in the day, if you're going to do anything with the phone, carry a roll of quarters with you at all times and use a paper. And when people got lazy and they didn't do that and they used the regular phone, that's how they got caught.
That's
And
when
that's
they
how people
started
get
getting
caught
caught.
now. it's the same thing. It was always the phone 99% of the time.
It always the phone, always the
Yeah,
conversation, the text messages,
yeah.
they can all be traced.
Even before there were cell phones, they would use a landline to see the phone
Yeah,
record, who they called, and that because people were lazy. If it was 20 below zero and I was doing something sketchy, I would be using a payphone. I would never use my own phone. I mean, I would tell that
right.
not sketchy, but where I wouldn't want to. I'm just very paranoid, I knew. And I would tell people now, I mean, even if you go to the library and use their computer,
Yeah,
that can be traced. It's
it could
really,
be
when you get
traced.
on the internet, it's very hard to disguise yourself right now. You know what I mean? So there's no
Wow.
evidence of what you're doing on the internet. It's
Exactly.
very hard.
So
It's just
you
very
figure you can't
that
really get away with anything nowadays.
no,
Like
it's very hard.
if you're gonna use a phone or some type of, because for me, sometimes my phone is my computer if I'm like in the car or something like that. So all of
Yeah.
the stuff can be traced. So if you're not using technology, you may be able to get
The
away with
only
some stuff.
other way is if you're writing letters using snail mail, you can do it like that. That's a lot less,
Mhm.
you know. I don't have any apps on my phone, for instance. I don't do that with the phone. I don't have
Really?
my life on my phone. No, I don't. I just use it.
How do you not have any apps
I
on
have
your
no
phone,
apps on
Donna?
it. No, I don't need it for that. I have a computer. Why do I need it on a phone? I have computers. Why do I need everything on my phone? I mean, why? Why would I do that? So if somebody picks the phone up, they can see everything. I'm not going to do that.
Do
That's
you guys see what just happened? Now she makes me feel self-conscious. Now I'm looking at my phone going, do I really need Facebook on my like leave me
I
alone.
don't have anything on the phone. And
Don't
I
judge
think
me.
the phone doesn't work right after a certain point when you have a lot of stuff on there.
Now I think they do that on purpose. I feel like the phone companies do that on purpose. After 6 months, you got to buy a new phone because it's not
Yeah,
going to work right because they do that anyway.
stay good for a long time because I don't have anything on there. I have
Oh my
nothing on there. I
god.
use it as a phone to get calls, make calls, and I don't even do that very much. Not a phone person, but I have no apps on there. I don't even know what that is. When my daughter visits, she has to do everything. She has to get like Uber for me. I can't do it. I don't have it on the phone. So I can't do any of that. I don't even know what you're talking about a lot of times when you say stuff.
Oh my god. You
Old
have been
school. Listen, the
so
first thing I
funny.
wrote that I was paid for, I was written on a typewriter. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. It's hard to get. I admire you,
You
Twanna.
you know, you're like my mom. My mom refuses technology. I went to the doctor with listen, you guys, I went to the doctor with my mom, right? This was like a few months ago, and they said you have to log in. Now, you don't have to talk to the receptionist. You have to use the little computer pad, log in. And she goes, I'm standing right here. I'm looking at you. And the lady's like, I know you're here, but you have to put it into the computer. My mom was like, how come you can't put it into the computer? And she's like, because you have to do it. You have to check in. I said, listen, let me just do it. And so you guys can stop having this silly conversation because there's a line behind you because you're arguing with this. So I do it, 3 or 4 times where that this is the funny thing. My dad is 70. This is my stepdad. He's 7 years older than my mom, and he has no problem with technology. Like he's already in his
Right.
80s, and he'll just sit there, do, 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 do,
It's
but not
funny.
my mom. My mom is like, it's of the devil. I don't want to
What
deal
you
with this.
used to, it's what you used to. I do bare minimum what I have to do, but I'm
Yeah,
not putting anything on a phone. If you pick up my phone, you can't see anything or tell
can't
anything
say
on my
anything.
phone. Nothing is there. There's no apps. Not even one app is there. Nothing.
Well, listen, guys, we have got less than 10 minutes in the show. So, Donna, tell us what you are working on right now.
Well, Drew Peterson, the one that killed his wife, Kathleen Savio. Do you know the case? He was a cop outside of Bolingbrook, outside of Chicago.
Right,
And then he had another wife that was missing, Stacy Peterson. Her body has
right.
never been found.
Stacy.
So I'm writing a book about him. I've been interviewing
Stacy?
her.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm writing. I've been interviewing him for in prison. Yes.
What do you like? She just vanished in the thin air. So she
Yeah,
can't be
he
found.
killed
Like
her.
she
He killed her. Yeah.
and put her somewhere, like
No,
in
I
the
think
freezer.
he was a cop for 30 years. He knew how to get rid of a body.
Oh,
Yeah.
snap. That's going to be
So this
good.
is the name of the book. It's called The Other Peterson because I wrote a book about Scott Peterson. So it's called The Other Peterson: The Evil Behind the Badge because he was he's such an evil, and he's brilliant. He's very smart, and he's just and I've interviewed his children, and it's very sad for his kids and for her kids because she was like 30 years younger than him, Stacy Peterson. And she had these two, a
Wow.
boy and a girl, and they were like 2 or 3 when he killed her. And
That
then
is
what's interesting is, so they
insane.
never found her body. It's very hard to convict someone without a body. So he was never charged. But when they opened up the case of his fourth wife, Kathleen Savio, who's found in a bathtub and drowned, and there was no water in the bathtub, he was
Right.
a cop, and the other cops covered for him because the ones that went to investigate, they all worked on the same police department. And then the sister screamed and yelled, and they reopened the case. They exhumed the body, did an autopsy, and because they had accidental drowning, and then they
Right.
did homicide, and then he was arrested for her murder. Now he's never been charged with Stacey's murder. And then he got more charges. He tried to hire someone behind bars to kill the prosecutor. He did
Listen,
all of that stuff too.
you know what that reminded
He's
me of?
crazy.
The lady at the zoo. She's on Dancing with the
Oh yeah,
Stars now.
Baskin.
What's her name?
Carol Baskin.
Do you think Carol killed her
She
husband?
killed her husband. Yes.
What did she do with him?
I
Where
think
is
the
he?
Dancing with the Stars producers should be ashamed of themselves to have her
I
on
was
there.
like, she's a
I
criminal.
mean, what are you doing?
Dancing with the
So
Stars?
disrespectful to her family.
I'm not watching it this
family.
season.
I mean,
I will not. I'm not
I'm
watching
not
it this
watching it
season.
either. And I love that show. It's like
I love Dancing with the
I know,
Stars,
I'm
and I
not
love
watching it
Tyra Banks,
right
but
now.
I'm not watching it
I
because I
mean,
was like,
she
isn't she
have
a
any
criminal?
morals anymore? I mean, you're
I
gonna
don't
just
know,
put
but
her
I
on.
thought that was jacked up. I'm like, this woman fed her husband to the cats. What are you doing? Like,
And
I feel like she's guilty. I
she
just think
is.
she's guilty.
She's a terrible person, and they have her on there, and she can't dance either. So I don't know why she's there. I watched a little of it, and she's terrible. They're going to have it tomorrow because today was football, but
I am not.
she needs to be arrested, her. Really. It's so horrible for the family, for the man's children who are convinced that she did it. You know, you need to look at that when you see these cases.
I watched
saying that
I watched some of the
person is
movie.
guilty.
I watched some of the movie. I watched, the some of the people, interviews and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
didn't
that.
watch it.
How has she gotten away with this for so long? What is that?
It's very hard when they don't have a body, I'm telling you.
So
It's
she
very
can
hard to
really
convict
just
someone.
say, my
Because
husband
the
just left
lawyer's
town.
going to stand up and say the person's not dead. They ran off. If you don't have the body, you can't prove they're dead,
But
right?
listen though, I don't know. Because listen now, we've seen cases where somebody end up missing or they are deceased. You don't have a body, but somebody still goes to jail.
Sometimes, but it's very hard to convict someone without a body. It doesn't happen a lot. It's hard to get a conviction because if the defense can plant seeds of doubt in the jury's mind, then they're going to, there's no evidence that this person is dead. That's what they're going to stand up and say. I've had to say it myself. There was no body. So where's your proof that the person's dead? It's not illegal to go.
There's not any proof because there's no body. So
exactly.
But I just feel like she's not innocent. I just feel like she's guilty. Her facial expression, her mannerism.
You know that they get $250,000 just for appearing on that show, whether they're axed off the first night or not.
That's the contract. Yeah,
she's made so much money off of what she's offered for crimes. It's really she's made money off of Netflix. She made millions of dollars.
These people are insane. I totally believe after this show tonight, I totally believe that there's a such thing as split personalities because I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I would be tossing and turning. I'd be like a caffeine fanatic or something. Like I would have to be on drugs to be like, okay with myself that I did this. Like,
I know. They have no conscience though. A sociopath has no conscience. They don't care.
Do you think she's a sociopath?
If she killed her husband,
does she have the mannerisms?
Yeah. I mean, only if it was in self-defense and he was abusing her, and only under those circumstances.
But I don't think she never said anything about being abused.
There's some wiring that's wrong. If you can just do that and walk about your life, that's where I've met many people behind bars, not in behind bars, that are like that, and they're scary people, and you wouldn't know.
I feel like the guy Tim Norman with the murdering his nephew. I feel like that I feel like even when like okay, reality TV, they always have like the finale when they come together, the reunion. And even on the reunion where they were talking about Andre and how he had just graduated high school, the look on his face was like he was at Burger King or McDonald's standing in line thinking about a Whopper. Like I was like, what is wrong with him?
The sociopath. They have no conscience, like Charles Manson and all the rest of these people.
That is really
No
scary.
conscience either. I know it's very scary, and they're all
You
among us.
guys be careful. You guys in
They're
the
all
audience
over
be
the
very careful. Be careful. It could be your next door neighbor, Donna said.
place.
Donna,
Or a
this
relative.
is
It could be one of your
it could be
family
a
members.
relative. Well,
These people
Norman,
they weren't dropped here. They all have families, right?
Tim Norman has definitely proved that it can definitely be your
And you
family.
can
Because
go by what the family says. Like with Carol Baskin, the family of her husband that she's accused of killing, they had a
right,
commercial when it first. They firmly believe that she killed their son. They don't want to believe that. Nobody wants to believe that an in-law is somebody that you loved and
right.
brought into the family is guilty of that. So
You
I
don't want
always
to
go
believe
by
it,
the
but
family. If they say and they firmly believe, they know the person better than we know, right? They know that person. And if they say that that person did it, then that's something to really be looked at because they don't want. It's hard. I've talked to so many family members of victims in these cases. They
yeah,
don't want to believe that of somebody that was in their home and their family. They don't want to believe
I
it.
agree. I totally agree.
So if they really believe, they're torn to have to admit that they were wrong about this person and they left their daughter married, or whatever it is. So if they're
Yeah,
saying that they did it, then more than likely they did do it because there'll be cases where the family defends them, said not that
yeah.
there's no way that they could do it. But if they're saying they're guilty, then you really got to look at that and pay attention to
Well, Donna, this has been amazing. I want to thank you for putting
Oh,
up with
thank you
me.
for having me.
Tell the audience where you can be found. Now, she found me on Facebook. That's how I know she's real good at what she
Yeah,
does.
I'm on Facebook.
Nobody can find me, so she found me on Facebook. But where can the audience find you?
They just Google me, Donna Thomas, and my website comes up. Donna Thomas, true crime writer, and it comes
Yeah,
up. They can find me there or on Facebook. I don't do any of the other stuff, Twitter, and
yeah,
I do bare minimum. But they can find me there, and and you have my email address,
I
right?
do, and I
So if
also I
somebody
put your
wants to
website.
contact me, you
Excuse
can
me.
get it. You can connect them to me if you. That's
Okay,
like
all
if
right.
somebody has a story that needs attention, and
If
it's
you
not
guys
getting enough
want Donna on
attention.
your show, if you want Donna on your show, if you want to talk criminal past and background and all that, get in touch with me. I will
Or
connect
someone has a
you.
missing relative, like a missing child that's not getting enough
Oh,
coverage because there's a lot of that if they don't look a
mhm.
certain way. I want to hear about those cases so we can shine a light
Yeah.
on those cases. I'm also
Legal
working on another
questions.
real quick. I'm working on there's been a lot of transgendered women that have been murdered
You
this year.
told me
Yeah,
about
a lot of
that.
color too.
What is that about? The
I don't know. I've
transgender
been
murders.
interviewing family in California and other states that are the victim's family, and I'm
You're
trying.
gonna have to come back. You are
Yeah,
gonna have to come
I'm
back.
looping it together because I want to write about that. I
I
think it's important.
totally am
Not
interested
enough
in that.
attention has been paid, and there's been around 30
Yeah.
of them this year in 2020. That's not acceptable. 20 transgendered women
Are they
have
still
been murdered.
considering this like a hate crime
Yes,
or what
it
do they
is a hate
classify? It
crime.
is.
That's what the
Yeah.
families believe that
Well,
I.
you have to promise to come back
Oh,
because we
yeah,
need a
I'm
part
going
two.
to. You're a breath of fresh air. I love how you're just a modern woman. You've got your studio. You're wonderful.
Well, you're stuck. You're stuck with me now because you're my Facebook friend. So you're stuck with me.
I
I love you so much,
thank you.
audience. Thank y'all. It is
Thank you
9
for
p.m.
all the exposure that you give these cases. It's so important. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I don't know. I've always been like a fan, but I was afraid to talk about it because everybody says if you do that, then YouTube will shut you down. They'll demonetize you. And
Uh,
you know what I did? I did some research and I started looking at other channels and how they did it. And I started looking at the Creator Academy and stuff. And I was like, there is a way that I can talk about this stuff and bring attention to it because people think this is important. And not only that, but you gave a lot of information tonight on what to look at to keep yourself safe, even with find out what sex offenders are, in your neighborhood. look at how people,
One
act or
more thing,
whatever
too,
and be,
Twanna. People
yeah.
that are doing the online dating stuff, please, there's been a lot of murders this year
Oh,
with that, too.
yeah.
Please meet in a public place. Don't go to someone's
Hmm.
house. Please. You would think that's
Buddy
like,
up. Don't go alone. Don't go
yeah,
alone.
and always tell someone who you're with and their number
Exactly.
and their phone number and let them know that, I mean, for security, you've got to, someone could be anybody. There's been several murders
That's
this
true.
of people that have met online, went to the house, and have been murdered. Several. We're not
Yeah,
even, they're not even, because of the corona and the election, they're not giving it enough attention, but there's been several.
exactly.
So please protect yourself. Men
That
too.
was good.
Men
Thank
and
you.
women, both.
Men
Anybody
and
who was
women.
killed,
I
both.
totally agree. I'm
Okay.
not going to do any online dating anyway, but for those of you who do, follow
These
those
young ones,
instructions,
they just
please,
go to
because
the house. They go to someone's house. They don't know. That is just,
I
you're
know
taking
you'll
your
get
life
in
and
their
family when
car.
you do
You'll
that.
get in their car. You'll go to their house. You'll show up alone. You don't have a buddy with you. Like, you're a sitting
And these
duck.
people are getting raped and killed. They're finding the bodies in the desert. There was one in Utah not long ago. A girl, 22 years old, went
It's
and found
awful.
somebody on plenty of fish, and he murdered her in the desert. She went to his house. Why would you do that when
On
you don't know the
plenty of
person?
fish. Oh my
Yes,
God. No.
plenty of fish. I'm going to do a thing on that because there's been a lot of crime as
Oh
we're
gosh.
the
When you
fish.
do, please let me
I
know.
will.
Oh. All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here because I need a
All
snack,
right.
and Donna has her
Thank you,
puppies that
Twanna.
she
It's
has to
been a
deal with. Thank
pleasure.
you. I love you, Donna. I'm like your new best friend in my head. Thanks
Okay.
to the
I'll keep
audience.
you touch about my stuff that I'm working on. I'll let
Thank
you
you. Bye, puppies.
know. Bye. I love them. They're eating. Okay. Good
You
night,
guys,
everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you guys so much for being here. I totally appreciate it. Don't forget, tomorrow I'm going to give you updates on all the cases. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show, and y'all will see me somewhere on the internet. Bye, everybody.
Bye.